Hey guys, it's Malthor here once again, and the bad news of the day is the Ground Slam Hegemony stuff, Raider, while a lot of fun, just kinda was a little lackluster for what I was going for and for the price I ended up putting into it. That is a 6-link Hedgie stuff, some pretty decent flasks including a Dying Sun, and trying to force a bunch of DPS with something like an Abyssus. So the clips you see here at this stage, I am running Abyssus, I do have 6-link, and I have some pretty insane DPS. I picked up an Echo Shrine here, I went full tooltip mode and got the biggest tooltip I've ever seen from any of my characters, 1.7 million DPS. All that said and all that done though, it can only really map up to tier 15s, and it does that pretty well. So for what it is, mapping and tier 15 boss killing, or up to that, was actually very smooth. As you can see, the DPS there is just fine, and we kill things very well without any troubles, and I loved mapping with this character. But then taking it to Guardians was just more or less a fail boat. Ground Slam itself just did not seem to have enough damage without any poison or bleed scaling, and on top of that, it's extremely dangerous to stand around and just chain attack multiple times. So I did have to end up going into some Cyclone action, and that wasn't too much better because of the way I built it. I didn't really build around Cyclone at all, and I'll show you a little later how I think you can optimize it more for Cyclone, because I do think Cyclone is probably the answer for this sort of build. Maybe Warchief Totems, maybe Earthquake, I don't know. Long story short, Guardians just weren't very good without any bleed or poison scaling, and I decided not to do that in the end just because I didn't think it was the right way to go, but it might well have been. The Chimera fight here was actually pretty smooth, even with Ground Slam. I did try Ground Slam out, and it was actually pretty smooth, but Cyclone was better and did a lot better damage, so in the end had to use Cyclone for that too, and it's still well doable. But considering I have to wear an Abyssus to get my level of damage, I can be pretty squishy, and the damage isn't all that out there in my opinion. And lastly, the Minotaur here was kind of lackluster. He does have 30% monster life, and it is enfeeble, so the DPS wasn't all that bad, but ultimately I'm pretty goddamn squishy, and I was not killing it fast enough for my liking anyway. And we did kill all of the Guardians, well, some of them smooth enough, some with a bit of struggles. They did all die, but it wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be, especially for the investment, as I said. I did try out Shaper, and it was a pretty big fail. It's not even worth showing, to be honest. I had to salvage it on my other character, the Hand of Wisdom in Action one, which is, you know, like 10 times better, and that is expected at this point. But I'll go over what the character has at the moment, and what you might be able to do with it if you want to try playing with the Hedgie stuff. I will also say I am extremely tired right now. I had a long day and really hard running training, so I may look a bit wiped out. Excuse that. We did hit level 90. It is a Raider, and grabbed the Frenzy nodes as well as the Onslaught nodes. Now they're really good in tandem together, lots of attack speed, movement speed, and a bit of damage, and the Avatar of the Veil is really good, but for this build you don't get the early damage bonus. I'm not really running a Vinctar, so it's not that necessary. So we did go with the Onslaught ones, and as I mentioned, to maintain Onslaught, it's mostly the faster attacks Fortify Leap Slam combo, which gives me Fortify here, as well as on stun effect every now and again, and whenever I have Fortify I have Onslaught. As well as that, you do get it just from the on kill effects, plenty as well. So yeah, I described most of the character in the past video, and it is a 6-link Hedgie staff. That's the main brunt of the cost of the build, which isn't that expensive anyway, but long story short, it felt like I needed Dying Sun for Ground Slam to even be viable on a really fun sense. I did get Ground Slam all the way through tier 15s and felt really good and pretty damn fun, but as soon as it hit tier 16s, it was kind of a brick wall against the Guardians, and I just don't think it's that worth playing if you're gonna be going for Guardians as well. If you're just mapping, Ground Slam's pretty damn good and pretty damn fun as an alternative to Earthquake. It's not gonna be beating Earthquake or Flicker Strike, but it is certainly definitely something you can do and have a lot of fun with. And the links I'll go over real quick once again were Ground Slam, Multi-Strike, Crit Strikes, Melee Damage on Full Life, Melee Fizz, and Increased Area. When we're going Cyclone, we're using Cyclone instead and added Fire Damage. Now I think Cyclone does benefit this build a lot more in that it becomes a lot more mobile. You can probably spec into something like Blood Magic instead, which I would recommend if you're going Cyclone, because their auras aren't terribly important. You don't really need Hatred when you're running an Abyssus, which I was, because I needed to scale my damage as much as possible to get to tier 16 Guardians. But if you're not going to do that, then a Rat's Nest is perfectly fine. Just a bit broken on int right now. Rat's Nest take you all the way through tier 15s, and you'll feel pretty tanky doing it, so it's not that bad of a choice. But I felt like I needed Abyssus to go into tier 16s. In any case, you can then go Blood Magic and get this, and probably run on an Essence Worm your Grace, because Grace is the only real thing that I think you benefit largely from on this build in giving us a lot of extra evasion, and that's if you choose to run a Perfect Form, which I did while doing the Ground Slam in the end. I thought Perfect Form was very good for its Arctic Armor, free Arctic Armor, as well as Phase Acro and a lot of extra evasion. But if you're going the Cyclone version, you probably want a Queen of the Forest because it will give you a lot of extra movement speed just by itself, plus Grace. That's most of my evasion scaling, and I haven't done much scaling. I'm at 17.8k evasion. You can get a lot more. You can run a Flask, a Jade Flask for example, a Stib Knight as well, and many other things. So this is more or less just not even much of a build anymore, just a bit of a template and discussion about what you can do with Hedgies. And I think Cyclone is probably one of your best bets for the staff to take you into the end game. Maybe some Earthquake action, but Earthquake and Crit doesn't seem to feel too good, and a Void Heart will probably take you even further for your bleed and poison bonuses. So in the end for Ground Slam, the passive tree I just couldn't really seem to figure out. I did, or maybe that's what happened, that I couldn't figure it out, and that's why I didn't do as well as I thought I could with this build, because yeah, there's a fair bit of travel, and I stared a lot at this one and tried to optimize it a lot, and I kind of wanted to drop this and take this up here, the crit staff nodes and some of this, but in the end it was worse. And I tried to go through here, and that was worse. I tried a lot of different things, and it just didn't seem to make sense. The travel that I did perform and get the frenzies and all that actually made the most sense and worked the best, gave me the best life numbers, damage numbers, all that, and yet still it kind of felt a bit weird. Maybe Berserker's a better option, and then sticking to the left side of the tree without needing frenzies and all that, but I'm not really too sure. As far as Cyclone is concerned, Raider's a great choice, and you'll still get a lot out of this staff with Cyclone, but it might just be an inferior version of Namahu's. I'm not too sure on that front, because Namahu's is very fast, very tanky, and has some pretty good damage. I think this one has potential for more damage, but it'll be slightly less smooth in my opinion. There's not much else to say at this point. The gear besides the staff wasn't too expensive. It was all pretty generic. These aren't anything special. That thing's almost free. This is just a nice life ring with a bit of fizz. That's just a life ring with a bit of fizz mana leech. That's where I was getting my mana sustain from, by the way. This was decent. Just trying to get some crit multi, some int, and filling out a bit of fizz as well. The Abyssus, they don't cost too much. A Ground Slam angle one, not that necessary, but it is pretty nice to have. And that is, by the way, giving you a fatter Ground Slam. So instead of just like channeling here, it'll, you know, add some girth to it. And chests, you know, these guys are pretty damn worthless. You can pick whichever one you want. There's a lot of chests to choose from, so by all means, you don't have to go with an evasion one. You can go with something else. And yeah, just the flasks, they're all free more or less. Lines of Raw costs maybe a little bit. That is all of the knockback in my current build. The Dying Sun, however, costs quite a bit and feels pretty necessary for Ground Slam. As well as that, Sin's Rebirth is really nice if you can fit it into the build, and that one costs a bit too. So in my conclusion, I'd say Cyclone is pretty worth building with this. I would have originally built Cyclone with it personally, but I just played the Cyclone Namahu Raider, and I didn't want to make two Cyclone builds pretty much in a row. from Raider perspectives and swamp you with those. But I do think I would have had much better success just being pure Cyclone and building the tree more according to that. I don't know what else I'd change right now just off a glance, but I definitely think I'd be getting Blood Magic, maybe even skipping a bunch of nodes and going up here. I think that might benefit more for Cyclone, or quite a lot of other stuff. I'm not quite sure. That's all I'm trying to say at this point. So if you do want to, invest in this stuff, by all means, there's plenty of choices. But the ground slam one, while it was good, I don't think it was terribly worth it unless you just want some fun mapping and nothing too serious, I guess is what I'll say. Before I go for today though, I'll just give you a quick little preview of my next character that I'm trying to build and I thought up of to give a test and see if it works. At this stage I have no idea if it's going to be insane or crap or good, but I have a hunch that this can work and have pretty good single target while pretty good clear speed as well. And it's a Berserker based around Scorching Ray, cast while channeling Firestorm. And the Firestorm is going to be more or less a lot poison. Or chaos. I may go into a Infernal Mantle for more chaos conversion. Not sure how necessary that'll be, but we're hoping here to scale some decent chaos damage and poison damage on the Firestorm while a lot of burn on the Scorching Ray. Based off of just, little theory crafting and numbers and tests, I think the Scorching Ray will have some pretty damn good damage, and I think the Firestorm will help a lot on single target. So for general mapping, the Scorching Ray will be sweeping and killing all sorts of monsters quickly and easily, and then the Firestorm will come in to play on harder single targets, and you'll be able to kill things that are poison immune, kill things that are ignite immune, though Scorching Ray doesn't have that problem anyway. But yeah, it will speed up our single target regardless. And I think the damage should be really nice and the playstyle should be really good, and it should be a fairly cheap build as well, with lots of life and survivability. And the reason I chose Berserker for this one specifically is for the 40% more damage. As well as that, I get the Leech here and the Mana Leech, and then also Cloaked in Savagery. So the Firestorm will be keeping me up with the Life Leech and the Mana Leech, and we get lots of damage through here, as well as the Scorching Ray. So the Scorching Ray doesn't get converted at all for Chaos, it's just going to be pure fire, and the Firestorm will be doing a fair chunk of Chaos as well as fire. And I'm pretty excited to see how this one works out, because I loved playing Scorching Ray last time I played it, and I have high hopes for this one too. That's all I'll say for now. Guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.